Got it. All right, let's try this again. Is that better? All right, we're going to call to order the Board of Public Safety meeting for the city of Wildwood, June 13th, 2024. Okay, so the first order of business is we're going to have a roll call.
City Marshal Jeff Bader.
I am here.
Board Member James Vanek. Board Member Vince Loyal.
Here.
Board Member Kevin Gleason.
Here.
Council Liaison, Council Member Joe Farmer.
Here.
Thank you. And we want to welcome Mr. Farmer. I think this is your first meeting ever. You will find this to be one of the more invigorating experiences of your life. Okay, so
Can't wait.
also, welcome Joe Hafner. Okay, understand you're stepping in because of reorganizational stuff, and we appreciate you being here, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right. Approval of minutes. Last meeting we had was April the 24th. I'm sorry, April 11th, 2024. I'm assuming that most people had a chance to review the minutes. If you want to take a couple minutes and look at them, that's fine, but I'm going to need a motion to approve them. Mr. Farmer has made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second. I'll second.
All right, so we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Hey, Vince, you're on mute, okay? So don't hesitate to yell. Okay. Okay.
Video.
So the question was simply asked, could Mr. Farmer make the motion since he wasn't here? But he has reviewed the minutes and he did review the video. So in our opinion, he can make the motion, and we're going to support his motion with a vote of approval. Okay. You okay on that, Rick? Okay, thanks. Next section is public comment. How many speakers do we have tonight?
We have 3.
All right. The rules are simply this. You come up, give your name, the area where you live, and make your comments. Okay. There's not really too much of a time limit, but if you go on too long, we start doing, the old timeout time. Okay.
Ramesh Reddy.
Hang on, there's somebody coming over to make sure the mic's set up for you.
Thank you for the public safety board members to giving me this opportunity today. And thank you for Joe Farmer, our council member, and the Big Brown engineer for putting forward this initiative towards the Public Safety Commission to bring forward this initiative for us. My name is Ramesh Reddy. I live in Carriage Crossing Estates of the Strecker Road. I'm one of the trustees of the Carriage Crossing Estates, and I've been the trustee for almost 9+ years for that subdivision. I today want to present a case about the speed limit issue in our subdivision. If you have been to Carriage Crossing Estates, it's a very small subdivision, less than 20 houses, 3 cul-de-sacs, 2 90-degree curves, and speed limit of, guess what, 25 miles an hour. If you look at the Strecker Road itself, the speed limit is 30 miles an hour. When we submitted a request, Wildwood City Police Department has done a study on how fast the residents have been driving. Now, I don't have much concern with the residents who are living there driving fast. They do not. They understand the public there and who lives there. But I do have a concern with the external service delivery people or other people who are driving in, and the kids. Right. Recently, we I want to expose, I want to bring together a safety risk for our community there, especially what we have. I mean, it's been 25 miles for a long time. It wasn't a big ask for us before because we didn't have young kids in our subdivision before. In recent years, past 3-4 years, we have 3 or 4 different residents came in, or 5 years, we say, they have younger kids. Oftentimes I see them playing outside. And another resident had just had kids and I see them running outside too. So it's a safety risk. I want to bring it to your attention. When you look at 25 miles per hour, there are 2 different of people. So I get it. One looks at it 25 miles. Oh, I can go 25 miles an hour in this thing.
Right.
The other things, 25, I can go up to 25 miles, but I'm going to use my common sense, not go that. I see second part of it doing by my residents, but the first part, maybe interpreted by some kids or some, other, drivers who are coming in, right? They're curving very fast through those things. They may not be going 25, even 20 is very, very, very high speed in that little subdivision. So I humbly request you guys to please consider to reduce the speed limit for the safety of our kids. You can drive through. It's impossible to, drive 25 miles, even 20 miles. So I humbly request you to cut it down to maybe 15 miles or whatever is appropriate. But, 25 miles seems to be very excessive. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity again.
Thank you, sir. And, and one thing we learned is that City of Wildwood Police Department has a very good track record of being able to do traffic studies, okay? So they'll take a look at this, okay? And they'll make a recommendation to the Board of Public Safety on whether they think the speed limit needs to remain the same, be, reduced or whatever. So, but no, thank you for coming in. So
Thank you so much.
Carrie Tebby.
Hello, gentlemen. I'm Kerry Tebby. I live at 211 Cobble Field Court, Wildwood, Missouri. I'm in Ward 4. Joe Farmer is my council person. And I'm talking about carriage crossing as well. I spoke of this back in our last public safety meeting. Since then, I've had conversation with Captain Mondell related to the speed limit issue. And he had said that he drove personally through the subdivision twice. He understands the situation. It's very hard to do 25 miles an hour. I think he agrees with his patrolman, the traffic police that runs the radar, that there is, you can't do 25. There's no way. You're careless and imprudent driving. In addition to that, I also noted that on Strecker Road, we've got curves and there's warning signs making a right-hand curve or a left-hand curve. And below that warning sign, they got a speed limit. And the speed limit on those curves are 15 miles per hour. Now, Strecker Road's 30. Now, the traffic division of County PD from Wildwood Division tells me that they run radar and they're looking for people that they're doing in excess of 30, but they give them a little grace. In other words, if they're doing 7-8 miles over, they're not gonna give them a ticket. If they're doing 40 or over, most likely they're gonna get a citation and get a ticket for speeding. Right. That being said, Captain Mondell and I had a telephone conversation, and since we have an implied speed limit of 25, why advertise it in our little subdivision? So my position is either reduce it to 15 miles per hour like Mr. Reddy would like to have done, and or take the sign down because it creates clutter. And in addition, we have a no outlet sign that's like 36 inches by 36 inches by 36 inches by 36 inches. Most subdivisions have a card or a street sign, looks like a street sign, that's placed on top and says no outlet. Right. This sign is so big that it's bending at the top because it's been put up haphazardly and there's a stop sign on the opposite side. So it's way too large. So I'd like to see that reduced as well, put up proper, nice, no outlet sign on. So if Captain Mondell would like to inject his opinion in this matter, I appreciate that.
So I can throw out a couple things on behalf of Captain Mundell, okay? We've had some pretty severe weather move through the area. So give the city of Wildwood time to take a look at these, what we would call construction concerns, okay? Reference the police officers not enforcing a 30-mile-an-hour speed zone at 30 mile an hour, okay? Unless a vehicle's odometer is certified, it can be plus or minus 7 to 8 mile an hour.
Right.
Okay? So they do that so that we don't have innocent people ending up having to take a day off to go to court to pay for a ticket that they're not really guilty of.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, I'll talk with Captain Mundell, okay? And,
Sure.
I'm sure he will invest the resources of the city. We'll take a look at the concerns, okay? And we'll try to fix them.
I appreciate that.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lauren Edens.
Hello. So most of you know me, but if you don't, I'm Lauren Edens. I'm on council. I represent Ward 2. And I'm here to speak about an issue tonight that I do believe does represent my community's needs and my ward's needs, but I'm not speaking specifically as a council member. I do want to make that clear. I'm here speaking as a private citizen. And I'm a member of a group called the Citizens for a Faster Emergency Response Time. And so we have formed independently in an effort to support Monarch Fire Protections District Proposition A, which will be on the ballot in August. And so I became involved in this effort after being on council and trying to support a new and improved Station 2 built in Wildwood, which will serve my residents and also residents of Chesterfield as well. And I became involved in a community group effort called Monarch Next. And so what we did was we assessed the needs of Monarch where it is today. We looked at issues that were going to be facing the district, so increased pressures. And we looked at what possible solutions would be to meet the needs of the community. And then we presented those options to the community. So you probably saw this on the local news. We held engagement events. Monarch Fire Protection District also hired a third party in communications to do extensive survey. This occurred through the phone. Mailers were sent out and also through a website QR code link as well. And so what we received back was very positive from the community and that they do in fact support a ballot initiative. And I want to kind of explain why they came to this conclusion and why I'm so passionate about it, because this is literally something that's life and death. And usually on council and Councilmember Farmer knows that I feel like a lot of what we do is really playing defensive, or we just kind of keep up, right? We're doing really heavy maintenance issues. We're making sure that we're getting potholes fixed or we're addressing concerns. But this is a chance to be really, really proactive. So my house personally is served by Metro West. So I've always been more familiar with Metro West. So this was also a learning curve for me about Monarch Fire District. So if you're not familiar with it, maybe because you're in a different part of the city, again, Monarch only serves about 1/3 of our city. The district itself is 62.7 square miles. That's rather large. It serves 80,000 residents, and there's 5 stations. This is the part that should keep you up at night. There's only 4 ambulances. If you're doing the math, that's 1 ambulance for every 20,000 persons. And guess which station doesn't have an ambulance? It's the one in Wildwood. So right now, those residents are really counting on one from the valley to be dispatched. And that works if a train isn't coming through or if that is not already dispatched somewhere else. Because again, Monarch is serving the entire valley through the Chesterfield corridor. It's also serving I-64. So right now, if one is not available and there's an accident in the valley or in Wildwood in that area, it could potentially come from Cottleville as a mutual aid response, especially if Metro West is busy. So right now, Monarch is not able to keep up with the needs of the community. We know this because the ratio of mutual response are receiving it at 2-to-1. Ideally, it would be 1-to-1 or better. So they're draining resources for their neighbors because they're not able to meet calls as needed right now. It's even more concerning because I'm sure you know our neighbors Chesterfield are really building out right now. So that's an increase of 12,000 expected residents. That's problematic because there's not enough equipment to meet those needs, right? So That's a huge gap in coverage for fire rescue and EMS. And so what I learned, and I just want to restate this for anybody watching at home, is that this is very expensive to meet the needs of the community. It's about what I expected, which is $500,000 for one ambulance and a couple year wait period because there's still supply chain issues since COVID. So this is not an immediate turnaround. SBCA's are expensive, turnout gear also expensive. Each firefighter needs, of course, 2 sets of that. The other thing that we know that we have a need for is the leading cause of death for firefighters right now is cancer. The deep concern is that all of the equipment is laced with PFAS, which is carcinogenous and is exposed to extreme heat. So your pores are opening and you're absorbing more of the chemical than you would just wearing that type of chemical and under normal environments. And so the funds that the proposition would raise would also go towards replacing that equipment. What we found from the community was a really strong response. We're asking our first responders already to do a very dangerous job, and we didn't want to be culpable or enabling a situation that put them in even more danger. So Prop A will have a 19-cent sales tax increase. So for an assessed value of $400,000, just as the example, we're expecting a $12 a month increase. This would provide Station 1 and Station 2 with a brand new ambulance and hires 21 personnel. So I'm here tonight for 2 reasons. One, information, and also to ask you and joining me and sharing this message. So if you know folks that are served by Monarch, please tell them about this. Please call your friends. Please email your friends. If you would like to say help even more, I would love for you to go out with me and knock on doors the weekend of July. There's multiple communities we can go in. So please volunteer with us. Get a hold of me, spread the word. We do need volunteers to knock on doors, tell residents to please vote in August, and to ask them to support the district that supports them. Essentially, at the end of the day, all we're asking you to do is be selfish and vote for your needs, right? Help us save you. And so that's the message. Join me and please spread the word. Thank you.
So, yeah, I appreciate your comments.
Yep.
Okay, the board can't really take.
I know you're not endorsing it.
But I
I'm
want to
just,
point out
yes.
that
Yes.
we've been through that. We have a retired firefighter, Bent, who's been through that. And we have a current battalion commander over here, okay? So, I mean, your statements have not fallen on deaf ears.
Excellent.
And I'm
Yes.
glad that the city of Wildwood was able to present you with the opportunity to help get your message out.
Yes, me too. So yes, again, this is just speaking person to person. If you have spare time away from this committee that you would like to volunteer or just get the message out, we'll do so. Right now, I would point you back if you have any questions to Monarch's website. There will be a separate committee website that I'm a part of that just hasn't launched yet. So there's additional information.
I will tell you that between Monarch and Metro West and Creve Coeur Fire Departments, okay, are probably the best fire department any community could ask for. Okay. And I only bring in Creve Coeur because I need them every day. But anyway,
Yeah.
but no, we're blessed with Monarch. We're blessed with Metro West. Okay.
That.
I would say they are top of the line. Okay. And the board can't take a stand on your comments, but you are correct. They're excellent departments that, do a good job.
Yes, thank you. We want the public to know that there's a critical need, but the folks that are currently working, although understaffed and under-resourced, do have the ability to work in a professional and well-trained manner it far exceeds
Thank you.
surrounding districts. So thank you.
I'm assuming no more public comment, right? All right, so we have now
Marshall Bader.
Sorry,
I wanted to, if you don't mind, Marshall,
go ahead, sir.
if there's anybody, I know, Mr. Loyal, board member Loyal is raising his hand, but if the 2 attendees online would like to speak, could you please use the raise hand feature? It is public comment currently. Okay.
Vince, I think the floor is yours.
Are you able to hear me first off? Hello?
We can hear you.
You can hear me, okay. I will defer to the marshal to determine the appropriate location of the meeting. It would be my intent to make a recommendation for a proposal on behalf of the Board of Public Safety to support Monarch's Proposition A in their upcoming election.
So here's the problem, Vince. I don't know that we can take a stand on these issues. Okay, so I'll talk with Mr. Brown after the meeting, okay? And we'll try to develop something, but I think the board, as appointed by the mayor, who's an elected official, cannot take a stand publicly on these issues. What the board can do is provide our guest speakers with a venue to get their voice out to the community. But what we can't do is get into a discussion about whether or not we support something.
I guess I would disagree with that respectfully, that the role of the Board of Public Safety would be to assure the public safety for the city of Wildwood and support any efforts to enhance or improve that. So I will defer to the decision by the appropriate officials, but at the appropriate time, I would make that recommendation that we support Proposition A. Thank you.
Vince, you have a track record for as long as I've been here about supporting public safety, supporting the safety of our neighborhoods. But we can't get involved in supporting, Joe over Bill over Tom or whatever. Okay. Now, I'll talk to Rick afterwards. Okay. But that's one of the purposes of these meetings. And this is why we publicize them. And this is why we allow people to have public comment, because it allows a venue for people to get their voices out to the public. But we can't take a stand to support something or another. Okay. But I appreciate you, Vince. You know that. Okay.
No, I understand that. And I also believe that our next meeting will actually be after the election, if I'm correct. I don't know that for certain, but if you would afford me the opportunity to speak in the public participation, then I would encourage all members of the Board of Public Safety, as well as the citizens of Wildwood, to support the Monarch Fire District Proposition A. Thank you.
We have these meetings because it allows people to get their opinions out. Okay. Thanks, Vince. Anything else? Do we have another hand up somewhere? All right, moving to the next item, which is information. Do we have anything on information that we need to be aware of? All right, so hearing nothing, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is old business. So we have an update on the Route 100 J-turn project. Okay, so let's run with that one. And amazingly, that involves safety to our citizens. So who do we have presenting that information, Mr. Brown? Unfortunately, you. All right.
I'll start this off, and then if our city administrator wants to add a few words, he's certainly welcome to do that. So you've been apprised, at least the members of the board who have been on it previously have been apprised of this project. I think earlier this spring, maybe in February, Department of Public Works is working on a project to improve Route 100. Actually, I have two projects, but the one before you tonight is the J-turn improvement project. And we've been working on this for a couple of years, lining up federal funding and state funding to construct J-turn improvements at Route 100, at Route T, and at Pond Road. And we've got about $2.4 million in funding lined up. The total project cost is about $3 million. So the idea with the J-turns, they're proposed primarily for safety purposes to reduce crashes, in particular reduce the severe right angle crashes. And with the J-turns, we don't have too many of them in the St. Louis area. Most of them are outstate. What they do is require the side road left turns to make a right and then go down and make a U-turn in the median. So we've had meetings on the project last month, and had mailed out about 1,400 postcards to nearby residents, inviting them to the meetings. We had two public meetings about a week apart. Had pretty good attendance at both those meetings. About 100 folks showed up. That was the good news. Bad news is most of them frankly didn't support the project. And the more we've learned about roundabouts, that's not real surprising because the folks that showed up at the meeting are primarily local residents, the folks we sent the postcards to, and they're the ones that are gonna be impacted by the improvement in terms of adverse travel. So if you are a resident in the area and you want to make a left and you always make a left, now you're being asked to make a right turn, travel, say 2,000 feet out of your way, make a U-turn and travel 2,000 feet the other way back. So what we heard a lot of was from the local residents was, I don't like the adverse travel. I think it's reasonably safe and I don't like the adverse travel. And frankly, more people said we should do nothing than supported the project. So we've got a bit of an uphill battle, frankly. We presented this to, as Mr. Farmer knows, to the Admin and Public Works Committee, and it'll probably be on the agenda next month again. And we felt it was a reasonable thing to do is to bring it back to you as a board of public safety, just to get any additional feedback you might have on this project. Wanted to give you the opportunity to speak towards it and I guess endorse it further if that's what you'd like to do. As we move forward, I envision that the city council may be in a position to have an up or down vote on whether we're going to move forward on this project. Unless Mr. Farmer wants to chime in or feels that's
I would
not realistic.
Yes.
So, foreseeing that, we kind of felt, the city administrator and myself felt it'd be good to bring it back to you since previously I believe you did pass a motion as a board supporting this project. If you wanted to do the same, that would be, I don't think that would be inappropriate, and we could certainly relay that to the city council as they make as good a decision as they can relative to this project moving forward or not. So I think with that, we're gonna wrap up. I would say that many of the residents before I wrap were requesting consideration of roundabouts at Route T and at Pond Road. And the roundabouts were considered when we did our study for these improvements, and quite frankly, rated very, very favorably. So they're not a bad idea. And many of the residents felt comfortable with the roundabouts. They like roundabouts. They didn't like the J-turn. So the question with the roundabouts really is if we decide to change course and implement roundabouts in lieu of the J-turns, we are very likely to lose the federal funding that we have in hand going forward. And frankly, we're probably going to get a bit of a black eye from MoDOT if we do that. But the reality is sometimes you have to make tough choices in life. And so I expect this will be in front of the city council next month, and I'll wrap up unless Thomas would like to add some additional comments to the topic.
With your permission, Marshall.
So I can throw this in right now, okay? People don't like traffic inconveniences, okay? But we have a lot of people on the board and a lot of people in this room that have seen what the end result is of a bad decision when somebody making a left turn. Okay? I can go on and on about this, okay? But it's pretty simple to me. I'll make a motion that we support accepting the funding and proceeding forward with the project and looking for a second.
I would like to make a comment with that. I had the chance, I'm not going to, it's 55 mile an hour in those stretches. And Captain Mondell, not to put you on the spot, but I did a ride along where they were doing traffic along there. And there were drivers that were going 75 plus. And so when you think a roundabout to me is not feasible, the speed limit may be 55, but that's, there are those that are not abiding by that, as well as, today currently making those turns, it scares me pulling out of there. So I will second yours, but I just wanted to put a comment with that.
Well, and
Your
I
second
can
motion.
throw this in, okay, and I don't mean to be a bad guy here. Okay, but state of Missouri and other entities pay a lot of people to make good decisions. And if they didn't think this was a good decision, they wouldn't support it. Okay, Vince, I know you want to say something here. Okay, so I'm going to give the floor to Vince Loyal for a minute. And
Hopefully I can complete it. Can you guys hear me first of all? it's amazing to me that it's been 37 years since it's taken us to get to this point. I was a young chief medical officer back in 1987 when a horrific accident occurred at Highway T and Highway 100. The St. Louis County police officer by the name of Richard Lineweber pulled two young victims from an automobile. One passed away, unfortunately, and one survived, at least at that time. Her name was Christine Busalaki. She became the national face of Right to Life. She and her father appeared on the cover of Time magazine on March 17th, 1990, and finally she was allowed to pass in 2003. This is as a result of an accident that happened in Wildwood. This is a nationally infamous intersection, and like I said, it's amazing that it's taken us 37 years to take the necessary action to correct this wrongdoing. There's been many accidents on that highway. I know the Chief Hafer can attest to that. I've seen many of them, and I wholeheartedly support the efforts to correct the engineering to make that a safer stretch of road. It's unfortunate, it's a bit more inconvenient for some residents, but I can attest firsthand that this is well needed. Thanks.
You know, the impact of bad things that happen on the highway goes on a long time, as we just heard. Okay. So, you know, for me, this is a no-brainer. This is something we can do to protect our citizens, whether they didn't want to wear seatbelts either. Okay. But now they do. Okay. They didn't want to have airbags in cars, but now we do. Okay. We have a responsibility due to our appointed position to do what we think is in the best interest of the people that we're entrusted to protect. Okay. I leave my motion on the table. Okay? That we support this effort wholeheartedly and recommend that the Board of Aldermen proceed.
Did we get a second on the motion?
I second that motion. Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's it for the old business. Now we get to go to new business. Okay. Do we have an update on the Cambury subdivision parking restrictions? I'm sorry, Rick, we should have brought you a bottle of water instead of making you walk back and forth. So. And by the way, thanks, Vince.
So board members, this next item pertains to is on behalf of the Cambury subdivision and concerns the addition of no parking restrictions in Cambury subdivision on Hilaire Lane, Lake Parksong Drive in Cambury Lane. And this request originally came to us as a request strictly to look at no parking on Hilaire Lane north of Cambury. But when we went out to review the situation in Cambury, as you see it on the exhibit, is there basically the southeast quadrant of 109 and 100 is the location of the subdivision. When we went out to investigate further, the streets in Cambury are fairly narrow. I think they're about 20 to 21 feet in width. I believe when we originally developed the subdivision, the intent was to park on one side only, and there are some signs that indicate that are in place on Cambury Lane, as well as Hilaire south of Cambury. So we checked the traffic schedules, which is the essentially a record of the ordinances passed by the city of Wildwood for traffic enforcement. Don't have any no parking restrictions on the books currently for Cambury. So we felt this was an opportunity to address this and kind of clean it up for the subdivision. So tonight we're bringing a request to you to implement parking restrictions in the Cambury subdivision so that folks will be parking on the one side, on the north side of Cambury Lane from Larksong all the way over to Etherton. And that already has at least some of that signed currently. And then on Hilaire Lane, we'd be parking on the east side, south of Cambury for about 200 feet. And then north, we'd be on the west side of Hilaire. And then Lark Song currently has on-street parking on the west side of Lark Song, so the restriction would be on the east side. I have run these by Stan Perkins, who is a trustee with the subdivision, and he gave it his blessing. I might follow up one more time, assuming it is approved here tonight before I take it to council fully. But if you approve the recommendation tonight, I will move forward with this at city council with an ordinance that would add these restrictions to our traffic schedules, and we would add the signs in the field to make it more clear.
So just as a point of clarification, there's no signage there now. Or is there? I mean, I live in the same type subdivision. Street 21 feet wide. You can't park on one side of the street. I understand all that. But is there signage there now?
There is some signage there now, yes. Not fully, but like there is on one block of Canterbury and one block of Hilaire.
Do we know if we support legislation to basically support efforts to enforce parking there, we're going to put up additional signage?
So correct, the department
Okay.
would install
That was my
additional
question.
signage to make
That
it
was my
clear.
question.
Yep.
You know, sorry, I think I'm parking ticket. So, but yeah, all right,
Right.
so,
Jeff,
yes, sir, go ahead.
I have a question about the no parking signs, as long as they're in conjunction with obviously where the hydrants are located.
So,
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that because they're kind of on both sides.
and that's one of the things we did look for is the location of hydrants. So
thank you.
Canterbury, the hydrants are on the same side where the parking is restricted. I don't believe I saw hydrants on the other streets. I'll double check that to make sure,
Thank
because
you
that's
very much.
generally the way we do it.
Thank
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I we trust your judgment, right? I mean, you know, I think it's something that needs to be addressed, okay? And, you know, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the request.
Second. Vince, go ahead.
I have a question actually first. Forgive me, Rick, are these streets built to the, should they only have parking on one side? Is that the width of the street? I'm just trying to figure out what's precipitated the desire to do this.
Given the width, yes, it would be the department's opinion that parking on one side would be a preferred. And I think by and large, they do that now. We've had some discussions with the HOA and I think by and large, because those streets are more narrow and that they do that currently. As I said, I did make one contact with one of the trustees and provided him this exhibit. And he confirmed that it was acceptable to the HOA. I'm going to double back and make sure before I take it to council that there is no misunderstanding in that regard.
And where did this request initiate from the city or from the subdivision?
The request came from the subdivision.
So the HOA agrees with this, correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, I would second the motion.
Thanks, Vince. Joe?
So, just a point, Metro West has an ordinance and based on street widths, and so anything under 26 feet parking is allowed. But no parking signs are on one side of the street. Anything over 26 feet wide, you can have parking on both sides of the street, just to clarify anything. That's a Metro West ordinance, and when we review the site plans, generally that's discussed at that time. So, thank you.
Yeah, because one thing we don't want to happen is that, your first responders can't get somewhere because there's no way to get down the street. When you drive through somebody's front yard, they fix it. So anyway, but, so, so we have our motion and we have our second, right? Any further discussion before we vote? Yes, sir.
Marshall, did we get a second on that? Oh, okay. Oh.
All in favor of supporting this initiative, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Mr. Brown, you have our blessing to take this to the board. Okay.
Thank you.
Second thing, you're probably going to sit here for this one, aren't you? Carriage Crossing Estate Subdivision.
I am going to stay up here. Yes, thank you, sir. This next item has already been introduced to you tonight by the trustee and the resident. Pertains to the traffic concerns in Carriage Crossing Estate subdivision. Mr. Reddy is here tonight and spoke about this in front of you earlier this evening. Carriage Crossing is located off of Strucker Road between Clayton Road and Route 100. It is a smaller subdivision, as he alluded to, 19 homes in total is what I counted. And they have expressed concerns with potential for speeding traffic and a desire to slow vehicles within that neighborhood. The subdivision, as I mentioned, is a small subdivision. They have two streets. Basically, you have Engelbrook Court, which is about 325 feet in length, and Cobblefield Court, which is about 525 feet in length. As was referenced, the speed limit is 25 miles an hour. It is posted at the entrance to the subdivision, which incidentally is a requirement. And that's done that way to provide clear message to motorists what the speed limit is after they depart Strucker Road. When you come off of a road with a higher speed limit and you change that speed limit, it's important to notify the motorists that has changed, so they are informed and can make those changes in their driving behavior. I would also mention that given the modest number of homes in the subdivision, the traffic on these streets is quite light, and we didn't count it, although we could directly do a count on it. But given the number of homes, I would anticipate that you wouldn't have more than 100 vehicles a day on Cobblefield, and probably a maximum of about 10, 11 in the highest hour. So it's very modest in terms of the amount of traffic that are on these roads at any given time. So when this concern first came to us, at least more recently, we did a speed survey. The Wildwood Precinct will help assist in these manners when we get speeding traffic complaints, and the traffic officers that we have do a great job helping us respond to them. They do speed surveys quite frequently throughout the course of the year as part of their ordinary work. They did a speed survey on Cobblefield Court near the location of the curve, I believe, just to get a sense of what is going on in at least that section of the road. So they have a box that records traffic speeds and actually cars over the course of, in this case, 6 days or 6 or 7 days, and they'll install it, it records, and they come and they pick it up, and then we download the data. So over those 6 days, frankly, not a single car exceeded 25 miles an hour. And that's quite rare, actually, because most cases when we do speed surveys, we do them on through streets. We do them on higher volume residential streets by and large, but they aren't cul-de-sac streets. They're through streets, higher traffic volumes, higher, and they usually are higher speeds overall. But in this case, not a single car was exceeding 25 miles an hour. All of them were less than the speed limit. So quite frankly, from the perspective of the department, there's no issues to be worried about. When we do these speed surveys, again, frequently we do find speeding ongoing. And those speed surveys help the Wildwood Precinct to quantify and prioritize their work in terms of where they need to best utilize their resources for enforcement in the city of Wildwood. So when they get a speed survey that doesn't show a problem, that tells us they don't need to put their effort into enforcing speed in this area. And Captain, if you want to jump in at any time, feel free to do so. So I wanted to take
You said well.
all right. I wanted to mention a couple other items because I know we do have some new members, and it probably doesn't hurt to kind of reinforce or remind some of the provisions. So by city code, Department of Public Works has the responsibility for installing traffic control devices on our streets. And we do that in compliance with ordinances that are passed by the city council, of course, and we also do it in compliance with state requirements. And I've interpreted that to be MoDOT requirements. MoDOT follows, as most states do, the manual on uniform traffic control devices. So we sign our streets in compliance with that manual. And we do that because it's basically the law. The federal law requires it. And we want to make sure we're following the law. We want to make sure that we follow that manual, and that by doing so, we put up appropriate devices for a legitimate reason and purpose, and that when we do it, it's consistent in Wildwood and it's consistent throughout the metro area and it's consistent throughout the states of the nation, all around the country. It's all the same. It makes it simple. People understand it, conveys a clear message, and consistency is one of the large goals of that manual. So that's the way we approach these type of requests. We don't make the rules up every time we get a resident request. We try to follow the state requirements, the manual on uniform traffic control devices when we consider these requests. If we didn't do that, we would have chaos. We'd have different decisions made on every street, and we'd be completely responsive to requests that are made, and it would not be pretty. So we try to be responsive to the concerns as best we can, but sometimes we are constrained by what we're allowed to do through the manual.
I would throw this out. Pretty sure we're going to see Vince's hand here in a minute. Okay, but that's okay. Yeah, we deal with a situation in which everybody is faced with limited resources. And I think, Mr. Brown, you hit the nail on the head. Okay. Do we really want to invest a lot of resources into replacing all the speed limit signs in a neighborhood that does not indicate? Quite frankly, I was surprised that nobody did over 25 miles an hour, because, that's not normally the way things work. Okay. But I think that 25 miles an hour is reasonable. I think the fact that we probably hadn't had any significant events in the neighborhood. Okay. And, Wildwood's like everybody else, they're dealing with limited resources, and let's deploy those resources into the area of greatest need. Okay. So, I'm not in support of lowering the speed limit on the street. I'm just not. Because if they're going to speed, they're going to speed, whether it's 10 mile an hour, 15 mile an hour, or 50 mile an hour. If they decide they're going to drag race down that street, they're going to do it, whether there's a sign that says don't do it. Okay. So that's my opinion. Anybody else? Vince? Go ahead, sir. It's yours. Go ahead, Vince.
I just had a question for Rick. Do we need to take action? The recommendation to put the 15 mile per hour with the turn signs, is that a separate vote, or is that included in your recommendation? I agree with the marshal, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't quite finish all my comments. I did, if you had a chance to read the memo, the one thing I did throw out as a possibility, the department didn't support the request to reduce the speed limit. But one option we could consider doing is to install a turn warning sign on Cobble Field, potentially 2 signs immediately in advance of the curve, and they would include a 15 mile an hour advisory speed. We've done that elsewhere. It's always on curves like that where they're sharp, especially if it's preceded by a long straightaway. I'm in favor of doing those kind of things to do your best to slow traffic going around the curve, because potentially there is issues, or there could be issues with sight distance, cars parked ahead on the street that folks may not be aware of. So what I was suggesting was, yes, placing the warning sign in advance of the curve with the 15 mile an hour advisory speed. That I think would be a more appropriate approach in this situation.
So, and I'll throw this out. There used to be a small municipality in St. Louis County that had the habit of reducing speed limits because they wanted to collect revenue. Right? We don't want to go there. Right? We don't want to task Captain Mundell and his people with enforcing a speed limit that is below the idling speed of most of the vehicles on the road today. Okay. So, I agree with you, Mr. Brown. I think we put up advisory signs asking people to slow down. Okay. Children at play, whatever. But I'm just not going to support reducing the speed limit on the street that doesn't indicate that anybody's doing over 25 miles an hour. So.
And we can certainly look at additional children at play signs if they're not already there, and that's certainly a possibility.
Yes, sir.
So I've had a number of conversations about the speed and things like that. And from the beginning, my suggestion was basically whether it's 25 or 15, it in general becomes an enforcement issue. And I think that the issue that we're running into is not necessarily the residents in the neighborhood, as it may be in other subdivisions, but delivery vehicles and things like that come in. It is very tight. I've driven through it a bunch. So I just didn't know. I don't know, Captain Mundell, if you guys have a suggestion. I think the feeling, at least that I think would maybe help lessen some of these concerns is there something that we can do or the council can do or whatever to help you guys in the event that there is an unsafe driver? I mean, I'm not surprised that anybody didn't break 25 miles an hour. I am one of those people that believes I don't know how you would in that road anyways. So, you know, whether if we're talking about funds, whether we're putting up children at play signs or turn signs or whatever, it all costs the same amount of money, changing the speed limit sign, all those kinds of things. I don't think changing the speed limit sign itself solves the issue, because if these delivery drivers are going to whip in and out of here, they're going to do it one way or the other. So what I would like to try to do, if there is something, is to try to get whatever you guys need to enhance your ability to enforce it if there is an unsafe driver. I don't know how that works. If somebody's going 23 but driving like a jerk, does that count as something you can pull over? I don't know.
I will tell you this, every time I drive by one of these signs along the road, there's one on Strecker Road, and I don't know if it's in Wildwood or Ellisville. When that thing flashes, I slow down. Okay, and I probably would get a free pass. Okay, so but I still slow down. I think Mr. Farmer's right. So let's, you know, put our minds behind this. What can bring our people's attention to the fact that they need to slow down? Right. And it's, yeah, I don't know how else to, you know, why put up a bunch of, why reduce the speed limit? Why put up a bunch of speed limit reduction signs? Why drag our first responders into this, try to enforce something that quite frankly is going to get very ugly really quick? Okay. And I personally believe City of Wildwood's going to take it in the face on this. Okay. So because now we've reduced the speed limit in order to collect revenue to pay our bills or whatever, it doesn't matter. Let's try to find a way to put something in place that gets people to slow down. You know, I know we can't put speed bumps on public streets, okay, but you know, those we have to think a little bit about how we want to do this without jeopardizing the very people who are living in that subdivision. So.
Yeah, as far as things that we can do, we're in there occasionally, like we should be. You know, we can put up the speed display signs. You know, it's kind of the needle in the haystack. We want to change the law to make sure we get this one guy.
Yeah.
Let's just figure out who the one guy is, and then we'll deal with the one guy, as opposed to affecting a whole subdivision. You know, basically making 2/3 of the subdivision violators by lowering the speed limit when they're not accustomed to driving at that speed. So I will have our traffic officers spend some time up there to see if we can identify, locate the fact that they're on Strecker already. You know, we do have speed issues on Strecker. We spend a lot of time on Strecker, so we're up there anyway. We use the speed display signs on Strecker also, so we'll do that.
Vince, looks like you want to say something. You good? All right. So Mr. Brown, what do you go ahead? Yes, sir.
Just to make a comment, I guess, as well, I don't support changing it to 15. I mean, I look like 11 homes total on the road,
19, yeah.
11 or 12. And even the 15-mile-an-hour turn sign, I meant there's 2 homes. That's all the straightaway is. And somebody who's going to go higher than 20, I mean, are they going to slow down because there's a 15 if they're going 20 anyway? Just to me, going through the motions, I do have a question. A 15, a yellow 15, that's not a speed limit change. That's just a recommendation, correct?
That's correct. It's not an enforceable speed limit.
Okay. So to me, I don't know that I see any benefit of that, placating maybe the homeowners, and it's 2 more signs on the road. I mean, on a 11 home, 12 home long road, to me, that doesn't benefit, but that's my thoughts.
How long has that subdivision been there? What I'm getting at is as the trees get bigger, people will slow down. Okay, it's just natural.
That and parking cars on the street helps slow
It's
the
just a
cars down.
natural thing that things alongside of the roadway cause traffic to slow down.
They do.
Okay, so what do you need from us? We're not supporting the motion to reduce the speed limit signs.
Well, I think if you want to, I guess my recommendation was not to support the reduction. I don't know that I need anything from you, quite frankly. I can inquire back with the trustee relative to the installation of the warning signs. I think we're fine doing that if that's what they'd like to go forward with. And if not, then I'm fine, I think either way, frankly.
Thank you. All right, next item is the tractor, I'm sorry. Yes, sir, Joe, go ahead. Mhm. No, that's okay. I think that's important information for, the city to have. Because, if we can't do it, we can't do it. Okay, so. All right. You don't leave the podium. I think you're next.
Well,
The tractor trailer restrictions on Old State Road. So.
So board members, this is maybe another familiar issue or topic that I believe has been in front of you before. This is some good news, I think, overall. Certainly it's good news for the city. After a lot of discussion and back and forth and maybe a little political influence by a number of folks, St. Louis County reviewed Old State Road for truck usage and finally decided that, yes, maybe restricting tractor trailers, the large trucks, was a good idea. And so they have installed signs on this is the lower stretch of Old State Road from Route 109 up to Old Fairway. And they have installed signs currently and in place restricting tractor trailers through tractor trailers from that section of roadway. And last I was out there, they actually had a message board in place. I don't know if it's still out there or not, but so they have made that change, and that was absolutely due to the request of the city and in some respect this board, I'm sure, because that was in front of, I think, public safety and the city council and everybody. So in fact, our newest member will probably take some credit for that as well, frankly. Mr. Bannock's not with us yet tonight, I don't believe, but he will be, I'm sure, in the future. So tonight, essentially,
I'm kind of curious. And I should know this, trust me. Is Old State Road maintained by St. Louis County or by Wildwood?
it is a St. Louis County roadway.
An
That's correct.
arterial roadway.
It's one of
Okay,
their
got it.
arterial roadways, and they were very resistant to the idea of restricting it from truck traffic. So,
Never mind.
yep. What they actually ended up doing is they ran an engineering analysis, and there's a program that you can run on your computer which tracks the path of a semi-tractor trailer. And they actually went to that degree to run the tractor trailer down the road and see how much off tracking was occurring. And they found out that it was. We actually did the same thing a long time ago on Fox Creek Road, but that's a different story. So, yeah, it can be a problem. That's why we've restricted a lot of our rural roads already, because those larger trucks can be problematic. So tonight we are here to ask you to approve a recommendation to add the truck regulation or restriction to our traffic schedule so that the Wildwood precinct, when they write tickets, we can enforce it in our courts. So the recommendation is to add that to our traffic schedule. No through tractor trailers on Old State Road between Old Fairway Drive and State Route 109. And if you approve the recommendation, we'll bring it forth to the city council at their next meeting for the council's full approval.
Vince, go ahead. See your hand up.
I make a recommendation that you support the implementation of truck restrictions on Old State Road.
So yeah, the motion is going to be to support the signage to reduce heavy traffic on Old State Road is basically what it is. You okay with that?
Sure.
Do I hear a second?
Can I ask a question? So you stated heavy traffic now, or heavy load. And can we just define semi? This is strictly semi, meaning truck and trailer.
Correct.
It's not going to do anything against the dump trucks that are running down there at 45 tons or the cement trucks or any of that using this through. Yeah. Okay.
Well, and I will tell you, that there's always exceptions to the rule. If somebody builds a new subdivision off of 109, I'm sure the local police department will take into consideration that Vader Building Supply needs to take supplies into that neighborhood.
Well, this won't stop, this won't prevent, that was my question. I was hoping it prevent through dump trucks, through concrete trucks.
Do we have,
Which it does not.
is there a weight restriction? I mean, do they list it over 45 tons or anything?
I'd have to defer to the specific, I'll double check that. I want to say the typical tractor trailer is 40, is it 40 tons? 80,000 pounds?
80,000 pounds.
And that's what it's geared toward. I'll double check that and make sure we're not contradicting the county, I guess is what I would
Yeah.
suggest. I'll double check that.
Yeah, and I'm not putting you on the spot, but there's not a set of tractor trailer truck scales inside of 270 in St. Louis County. Okay, so if you want to enforce weight limits, you got to have St. Louis County bring the portable weight. Isn't that right, Jimmy? So the St. Louis County's highway safety team has those scales, but I don't think we want to go that far. Okay, so I do think we probably need to figure out how much weight we're talking. Right, so because if I'm driving down there in my Ford F-150 pulling a trailer that weighs 3,000 pounds, am I over the limit? So can we figure that out, Rick, before we go too much further with that?
Absolutely. I can make sure there's clarity on the definition of a tractor trailer and what the gross vehicle weight is on that.
Rick,
Go ahead.
so if we're mirroring the county ordinance says no through tractor trailers specifically.
Right. Yeah.
There's no weight limit on it. Obviously, you tractor trailers are heavy, but it's tractor trailer specific.
So, but the problem we run into with this is that if I am a gravel truck, I'm hauling 80,000 pounds of stuff. Okay, I might not be a tractor trailer, but I'm hauling the same amount of weight. Okay, and if we're going to make this argument, we need to think about this, that, you know, how much, I think there has to be something regarding the weight. Okay?
I believe that we define a tractor trailer in the code, and that's where that would fall. And the question would be, are we consistent with the county and how they defined it?
So my argument is to this. I think a fire truck full of water weighs 100,000 pounds, Joe. Yeah, so, but that's an exception to the rule. But you understand what I'm saying? That's not a tractor trailer truck. All these gravel trucks we see, they're not tractor trailer truck. They weigh upwards to 80,000 pounds. Right? So, you know, I understand the concern about not letting a tractor trailer truck go down the road because they're big and they're scary. Okay. But a lot of times they're not the heaviest vehicle on the road. So can we find out if there's going to be a weight limit? Yes, sir.
So, we've had this conversation a bunch on Old State. I think what the county came up with, the idea was less about the weight of the vehicle going down and more about the length, and that there was a couple curves where it was crossing the center line, so to speak, and creating a really dangerous situation. So, I mean, I think you guys can do it however the motion worked, but I think that if we would just want to mirror what the county has to alleviate any kind of confusion. So if they've got the signs up, do they have the signs up currently, Rick? Or are
I
they
believe
putting
so.
them up? Okay, so if those signs are up, Captain Rendell, we need to have some on the books, right?
So this is,
Yes.
this isn't a weight issue. This is a length.
It's a
issue.
tractor trailer issue,
Now I
yes.
understand. Okay, got it.
And actually, we can issue county ordinance violations. This is just making sure that it's now mirrored with the municipal code that we can issue wildwood tickets for.
Yeah, and I understood that. I was just actually, I guess, hopeful. I travel that road all the time. And what scares the most is a concrete truck or a full truck coming down that hill is scary. But
No,
I understand the semis, and it has to do with length and crossing the line.
And the clarification, ready to accept the motion that we support.
Yeah, and we got some other stuff happening over there too. So it's
Yeah. Rick, do you need a motion from us?
I think we have a motion.
We have a
from
motion, I'll
Mr.
second
Loyal,
that
right?
motion. Aye.
aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll get clarity on that too, to be sure.
You gotta go sit down, Mr. Brown. It's been a hard night for you. All right, do we have anything that's not ready for action? Not appear so. Moving on, do we have any miscellaneous items? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just had I guess it's a question for you, Catherine Mandel. I was in the past. We used to get on the council, we used to get like basically kind of like a statistical report from you guys, and it comes up around budget time. We get it like the annual breakdown stuff. I just realized we haven't been getting those for a little while. So I was wondering if we could start, if you could send them over to, I don't know, whoever we send them to, and we can.
So like our monthly.
Yeah, I think they were, I don't remember. Were they
Like a
like
crime-
quarterly or something? Monthly?
Prime summerly. Okay.
Yeah, something like that. Just like, hey, here's what's going on and
Yep.
here's all that stuff. And then that helps us when we have to figure out budget things, how we want to figure that out.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Any other items for the open forum? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, a second. Vince, go ahead. I'm sorry. You seconding it or you got a question?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, everyone.